What is up, everybody? What is up, everybody? My name is JeffLightsyJr. here with the Black Boss Channel and Victory Formation. Thank you, guys, for tuning in. Come on into the room. Come on into the room. This is a live show, so you're catching me live. If you're tapping in, please let me know who you are and where you're from. We're also trying to figure some things out with YouTube because I think I don't know if I'm in shadow band or what, but I feel like my reach isn't getting to all the people. So be sure to hit the like button as you come in, share the video, retweet the broadcast, post it on your Instagrams and Twitters and Facebooks and all that good stuff. Because we're here to talk today about an interesting video that I saw put out by ESPN about none other than Deion Sanders. They're trying to get him to Auburn. And I have good intellect that they're really going to work to try to get Prime to take the Auburn job. So sit back, relax, and let's enjoy the show. After the bumper, we're going to talk about it. And should you be concerned if you're a Jackson State fan? Well, let's talk about it after the bumper. What is up, everybody? What is up, everybody? Shout out to HBCU Band Talk. Shout out to HBCU Band Talk. You was in here on the live show on Saturday, so appreciate you and all the support. Appreciate all you guys. Please come on into the room, share the broadcast, because I think we're experiencing some kind of shadow ban. We're not getting the usual viewership and stuff like that, so I don't know what's going on with YouTube, but that's why I want you to share the broadcast, like the stream, share the broadcast, let everybody know that we're here. Let me know where you're from, what city, what school that you're repping, what city, what school that you're repping, because we're here to talk about an interesting topic. We're here to talk about ESPN's push to get Deion Sanders at Auburn. Yes, this is something that's being pushed by ESPN, and I got evidence to prove it. And I'm going to tell you why they're pushing to get him out of Jackson State and into a school like an Auburn, and specifically why Auburn makes a lot of sense for ESPN to do this. So I was on the internet, browsing the internet, just surfing the web like I normally do every single day. And I saw this video put out by the ESPN college football account, and it was a clip of the Paul Finebaum radio show. Now, if you don't know Paul Finebaum he's a longtime radio broadcaster in Alabama. He's a big Alabama guy. He covers a lot of Alabama, Auburn, a lot of SEC. He is the ESPN SEC go-to guy, right? Like Paul Finebaum. And he has a very, very popular show down there with a lot of Alabama callers, a lot of callers from the SEC area, which is also simultaneously the SWAC area. So anyway, he took a phone call, and it happened to be an Auburn fan. So for those of you that don't know, Morse is going to stay till his kids graduate. And that makes sense, but we got some details to add to that. So it called into the show, and Auburn's head coach isn't doing so hot. He just got blown out by Penn State. Folks are calling for his job. They want him gone. They want him out of here, et cetera, et cetera. And the caller made some interesting points, and Finebaum seemed to even be following along with the points. And Finebaum seemed to be thinking the points made a lot of sense. And Finebaum, who is someone who's connected to ESPN, he's connected to the SEC, he's connected to the state of Alabama, is someone who kind of try to make some push there. And this is something that, once again, is being blasted by the ESPN accounts. Now, I'm going to play the audio. I'm not going to show too much of the video because I don't want any copyright strikes or whatever, but we are going to play the audio. You're going to be able to hear the conversation between the caller and Finebaum, and I'll be stopping and giving comments as it happens. But I'm going to show you the title of the video. So here's the title. The title says, "Could Deion Sanders be the next coach at Auburn?" And look at the emoji that's being used. It's the Paul Finebaum show. And this was made today. Like I said, I caught this the first hour or two that this was out. And this is to a subscriber list of almost 400,000, 377,000 people get to see this. You see some comments down there. But this is on the Paul Finebaum show. And it's a quick segment, so it's not very long. But as you see, Paul Finebaum, in all his glory, he's right there. Let me go ahead and take him off the screen. That way we don't get any copyright strikes. But I am going to play you the audio. He said, "I'm an Auburn fan, and I don't know if we're a big enough brand to get Deion." Well, I'm going to tell you why Auburn I'm going to tell you why Auburn is a big enough brand. It is a couple of reasons why they're big enough, but I don't think he'll leave. But this is why ESPN is kind of pushing it. So let's take a listen. This is the Paul Finebaum show. This is a caller calling in to suggest that the Auburn Tigers should go out and get Coach Prime.
808 is up next. Good afternoon.
Hey, what's going on, Governor Finebaum?
We are doing great. Thank you.
Yes, sir. First, I want to salute Coach Prime and all his accomplishments. He had Jacksonville State winning the SWAC championship last year.
Well, it's the first thing that the caller does. You can tell you don't tap into SWAC football a lot. And this is a mistake I even made early when I started doing this. Call them Jacksonville State. You know, JSU fans don't like that. There's Jackson State. Jacksonville State is a different FCS school. This is Jackson State and Coach Prime. Let's continue listening.
But Coach Prime's resume, to me, it speaks volumes for what he's done, football. Most children of color, my age, we looked up to Deion as a superhero, and now our kids are playing football. So if Coach Prime came to Auburn University, just imagine, what type of recruitment he can have and what kind of impact he can have in the South. But most importantly,
well, if Coach Prime come to Auburn University, imagine what impact he can have in the South. Well, last I checked, Jackson, Mississippi is in the South. And last I checked, Jackson, Mississippi is an HBCU. So I feel like he can touch more kids at the HBCU than, especially in the South, specifically in the South, than he could at Auburn. But maybe my brain ain't working. Let's continue on.
We see all those commercials with him and Nick Saban. Just imagine Coach Prime just throwing and Saban off the stand. I think that'll be a great hire for Auburn University to push Coach Prime in, because you had that person, Jacquez, a couple months ago, talking about Coach Prime want to win on the highest level.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that, Paul?
I sure do.
So we know he want to go to the next level. He doesn't have the resources because he put all his money.
Oh, here goes the shot to JSU. We know he wants to go to the highest level. We know he doesn't have the resources. Do you guys actually listen to what he says, though? He says he wants to change those things at Jackson State, not just to say, state the problem and not help change the problem. Like, he's part of the change that's taking place. We're getting those resources, not just at his school, but at every school at HBCUs. Let's continue on.
Back into Jacksonville State. So why not have him at Auburn?
You know what, 808, I'll say this to you, and I agree with you. I think it would be really a historical hire.
Of course he would be. Of course you agree with them. And of course he'd be an historical hire because, you could check the rosters of all the SEC schools. Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, Florida. It's a whole lot of black players on those rosters. You check the coaching staffs. Looks a lot different. That's why Paul's like, it'll be a historical hire, because hell, we ain't had that many black coaches in the SEC. The SEC was one of the last major Power 5 conferences to become integrated, right? Like, that's why he's like, it'll be a historical hire, because right now, do any of the SEC programs have a black coach? I can't think of any. Any in the SEC have a black coach? Let me know in the chat. Do any of the current teams in the SEC have a black coach? I can't think of one. I swear to you, I'm not trying to be funny. I'm not trying to be facetious. I don't know of a black coach in the SEC right now. Head coach. See, Ole Miss has got Lane Kiffin, and South Carolina's got Shane Beamer, and Florida's got Billy Napier, and who coached at an HBCU. He coaches South Carolina State, by the way. And Alabama's obviously got Nick Saban, and Georgia's obviously got Kirby Smart, and Tennessee's got Heupel. So you guys will let me know. No, they don't. Hell no. So there's no black coaches. So that's why it'd be a historical hire. Ain't no black. All them black players. Think about that, man. That really just dawned on me. The SEC is the biggest conference with the most NFL players every year get drafted. They get the best recruits every single year. They're all black athletes for the most part. Georgia's got the tight end is absurd, right? But everybody else is pretty much black. Even the quarterbacks now are black. Alabama's quarterback is Bryce Young. Like, most of Anthony Richardson in Florida. Like, most of the quarterbacks are even black now. And there's no black head coaches. That is like a freaking boom, like a bomb that exploded. There's no black head coaches in the SEC. Incredible. There There are no black head coaches in the SEC. That is wild to me. Hiring a super famous person as a college football coach will be historic as well. Just doesn't happen very often. Yeah, but even more than that, it's historic because there ain't no black coaches in the SEC right now. And who was the last? Let me know in the chat. Who was the last black head coach in the SEC? Because I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I don't even know. Brian Kelly's at LSU. Before that, it was Orgeron. Before that, it was Les Miles. So, yeah, Kentucky's got Mark Stoops. I think Kentucky had Joker Phillips. He was black before Mark Stoops. Mark Stoops been there a decade now. So 10 years ago, they had Joker Phillips. I do know that. Kevin Sumlin. Somebody said Kevin Sumlin. Derek Mason. Okay. Derek Mason, Kevin Sumlin. All right. Kevin Sumlin, Derek Mason. That makes sense. But there's currently no black head coaches in the SEC. I got you. But let's continue listening to the caller on Finebaum show because this is crazy.
For the SEC and for college football. And of the names that I've heard so far, I mean, the usual suspects, Hugh Freeze, Lane Kiffin. I mean, Deion Sanders.
Prime is a way better coaching candidate than Hugh Freeze and Lane Kiffin. And those are the names he's hearing, and he's about to admit, like, yo, that ain't moving the needle. Lane Kiffin, Saban beats him all the time now at Ole Miss. Him going from Ole Miss to Auburn ain't doing much. Hugh Freeze, Saban used to beat up on him when he was at Ole Miss. So him going from Liberty to – he had to cheat and it still didn't win nothing. So him going from Liberty to Auburn, that ain't doing nothing. Prime is a way better coach than either one of those. So we know those ain't realistic options.
Sanders blows those guys away. I mean –
Uh-oh. Oh. Well, technically,
Lane Kiffin has proven he can control people on Twitter, and he's a very good coach. Hugh Freeze has proven that he's a good football coach, but neither one of them is going to generate the kind of excitement that Deion Sanders would generate. There's no comparison. I'm just giving opinions here. Nobody at Auburn cares what I think or you think.
Nobody at Auburn cares what he thinks or nobody at Auburn may not care, but the people at ESPN care. And listen to the word that he said. Listen, even what the caller said. The caller talked about the commercials between Prime and Saban, right? How they could play off that with the Auburn-Alabama rivalry, Prime and Saban, the GOATs, all of that stuff. That's one level of excitement. I think that is a national commercial campaign that they have with Aflac. The other thing with Finebaum saying excitement is because he understands media rights. He understands media. He understands selling games, not just tickets in the stadium, because Auburn going to sell out in the stadium, period. But if Auburn is losing, yeah, they'll sell out every time in person, but ESPN don't give a damn about ticket sales. They care about eyeballs watching the games. And the SEC and the Big Ten have the most eyeballs. That's why they get these big lucrative contracts. And eyeballs, specifically with the SEC, matters a lot to ESPN. Why, Jeff? Because ESPN owns the media rights, or a part of the ownership group of the media rights for the SEC. They've been shut out of the Big Ten. The Big Ten struck their deal with CBS, Fox, and somebody else. Can't remember, but they left out ESPN. And so ESPN is going to double up when it comes to the SEC. And the excitement of having Prime in the SEC for a cable company that owns the media rights to the SEC is invaluable. It's invaluable. Let's continue on. Let's continue on with the show, and I'll dive into that even more later.
Think about who their next football coach would be, but somebody said, I think I asked a question to John Talty yesterday about Lane Kiffin. How would Nick Saban react to that? Because Lane Kiffin is always trying to poke the bear. He could live with Lane Kiffin being at Auburn because he's already beaten Lane Kiffin every time he's faced him.
Exactly.
But I guarantee you,
he ain't scared of no Lane Kiffin. Like you said, he beats him every time he plays him. Lane Kiffin can recruit a little bit. He ain't recruiting like Prime at Jackson State. Let's continue on.
Saban would lose some sleep over Coach Prime being at Auburn.
Even Paul had to admit that Saban, who called out Jackson State by name, by the way, called him out when they got Travis Hunter. Remember, he said Jackson State paid $1 million for one player. Even Paul Finebaum, as biased as he is towards Alabama and Nick Saban, said Saban would lose some sleep if Coach Prime came to Auburn. And you know who wouldn't lose some sleep, who would be shucking and jiving all the way to the bank if Coach Prime went to Auburn, would be ESPN. And I'll dive more into that again later.
Absolutely, especially the comments he made during the off season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Coach Prime. But Paul, I'm gonna tell you this: never would I imagine in my lifetime I would have saw HBCU football on primetime ESPN.
Never in my lifetime would I ever saw HBCU football on primetime ESPN. That's what this caller said. This is a black man from the state of Alabama, by the way. This is a black man from the state of Alabama, by the way. Never in my lifetime would I think you have saw HBCU on ESPN. This is a black man from the state of Alabama, by the way. So I just want to let you know what's taking place down there. And I know a couple of y'all from Alabama. I'm just letting y'all know what's taking place down there, by the way. Let's continue on.
For some reason, he brings the crowd every game. Coach Brown's go to, it doesn't matter if he's at Alabama A&M, Alabama State. It's 40,000 people coming to see him. So just imagine those.
For some reason, he brings a crowd. I don't know what it is, but it's 40,000 people to come to see him, or they come to see the product that he's put on the field, or they come to see the players. You know, the players have said Dallas Daniels has something to do. Savion Wilkerson, Shedeur Sanders. And then he is Deion Sanders. Ain't no some reason. He is a college football Hall of Famer, Jim Thorpe Award winner, top 5 draft pick in the 1985 draft by the Atlanta Falcons, 15 years in the NFL, Pro Football Hall of Famer, also played in the MLB, played in the World Series, College Football Hall of Famer, Pro Football Hall of Famer, top 100 player in the history of the NFL, top 150 player in the history of the NFL, considered arguably as one of the greatest athletes ever in any sport, period. Always unanimously known as the greatest cornerback in the history of the NFL, period. But some reason, people are coming to see him and his team play. His team that won the SWAC championship last year and that's currently undefeated, beating teams by 37 points per game. But some reason, people are coming to see them play. Ooh, let's continue on.
Same people coming in and supporting Auburn University.
I agree. Listen, that's one of the best calls we've had in a long time. Thank you.
All right, so that's the end of it. So here is why. Shout out to y'all, man. Shout out to y'all. Continue to. He said we don't claim them. We don't claim them. Keep an eye on someone. I don't know what that means. Let's look at some, and then I'm gonna get into why ESPN will want this to happen and why they specifically put this clip up on their page with 377,000 viewers. Now they will like to take Deion to any Power 5. They want black colleges. It's not just any Power 5 though. It's not just any Power 5 because I remember. Let's talk. Let me look at some more of your comments and then appreciate you, Don Play. Appreciate you. Let's see. What about SWAC going FBS? FBS requirements are man-made. Yes, they are, but the SWAC schools they got to do a little bit more, and that's what Commissioner McClellan is fighting for as well. He's fighting to make this happen. This right here, the SWAC become an FBS program, but there's a lot more that they have to do. See, the whole SWAC can't go FBS, only 4 teams qualify. Exactly. You're right about that, but that is why it's a lot of work that has to be done. So let me tell you why ESPN chose to put this clip up. I've already spoken about it a little bit earlier, but let me tell you, because I have to get out of here. Let me tell you why ESPN chose to put this clip up. You're right, Rochelle. It's all about the bread. It is all about the money, and here's what I mean. The SEC, one, people are watching the games, but a national audience isn't watching. College football, in the grand scheme of things, has become too regional. Meaning, if big time college football, it's become too regional. The SEC's winning too much. That like the Alabama, there's been 15 championships. In the last 15 championships, Alabama's won 7. The SEC's won like 12. Right? The only ones that sneak out in the last 15 championships, the only people to sneak out a championship is Clemson's got 2, and Florida State's got 1. And all the other in the last 15 years, all been SEC schools, whether it's LSU, Auburn, Alabama's, most of them, they all been SEC schools. So college football is being too regional. So a way to fix that, because the ESPN owns the rights to the college football playoff, they expanded the playoff. They finally expanded the playoff, and they just make it from 4 to 8 teams. They did 12 teams because they want USC to be good again, and they want to get that LA audience. They want some of those group of 5 teams to get in because they want their audience, the Cincinnati's of the world and the UCFs of the world. And so they expanded the playoff because they want to get more of the country engaged in college football, the Notre Dame fans and stuff like that. So that's part of it. The second part is, I talked about this earlier, the media rights. Media rights has been a big topic in HBCU football, right? Like, media rights has been a thing a lot of people have talked about. A lot of people don't like the deal that the SWAC made. A lot of people are wondering what the MEAC is going to do. You got HBCU Go, HBCU League Pass Plus, all these different people fighting for media rights, both not in the HBCU space, not just with the SWAC, but with the CIAC, the MEAC, the Gulf Coast, all that stuff. And so why this is important is because the ESPN, why they are promoting this specific topic, Deion going to Auburn, they're pushing it because ESPN lost out on the media rights for the Big Ten. The Big Ten got a 7-year, $7 billion media rights deal with Fox, CBS, and somebody else. Can't even remember who it was. They got with somebody else, and they excluded ESPN. So for the next 7 years, ESPN will not get any Big Ten games. That means the USCs versus the Michigans, the UCLA versus the Ohio States, Ohio State versus USC regular season matchups. They're not getting Michigan State. They're not getting any of those. Not anymore. They're not getting any of those. They got shut out of the moment of the negotiations. They got shut out. And so they're going to double down on who? Who's the other power conference? It's the SEC. And so they're about to, if the Big Ten got 7 years, $7 billion, the SEC is looking at that, and they're starting at that point. They're going to get $7 billion, $7.5 billion, maybe $8 billion, but they're going to do it with ESPN. And so therefore, think about it if you're ESPN. If you're paying 7, 8, maybe even 9 billion, I don't know. If you're paying over $1 billion per year for a conference, mainly for football. You're getting their basketball too, but it's mainly for football because the most viewership as far as eyeballs watch football. You pay all your money for football. So if you're going to pay $7-8 billion, over $1 billion per year to show football games for a conference, wouldn't you want that conference to have the best coaches that they can have? Wouldn't you want that conference to have the most notable or coaches with the most notoriety possible that they can have? And so who is more famous in college football and coaching than Deion Sanders? Who's more famous? There is not a coach in all of college football, not just in the SEC, but in any conference. The SEC, the Big Ten, the Pac-12, the Group of Fives, the Sun Belt, the Conference USA. You can put their swag, their popularity, what they do, their social media feeds, all of them, combine them all together. And they can't buy Deion Sanders' personality. They can't buy the attention that Deion Sanders gets. They can't buy the swag that Deion Sanders gets. You can't buy it. And so why not? If we're about to pay a conference over $1 billion per year, why in the hell wouldn't we want the most popular football coach in all of college football? Yes, we want him to go to the SEC. We want him to go to the SEC and coach at Auburn. So him and Nick Saban become instant rivals. They become instant rivals. They already do commercials together. Saban's already kind of sparked a little mini beef that Coach Prime kind of put out, but we know that's still there. We know that, you know what I'm saying, Coach Prime wasn't going to let that mess up his money, but we know that that's still a thing, and the players remember it. They ain't forgot. Travis damn sure ain't forgot. So why wouldn't you want a conference that you're going to pay $1 billion to because you know the ratings will be through the roof? If Prime goes to Auburn, let's say, I don't know what the average Auburn-Alabama game, it probably gets around 7 million viewers, 8 million. A Prime versus Nick Saban Auburn-Alabama game will get 10+ million viewers. One game, 10 million people. One game would get 10 million people watching. Every Auburn game would average 2 to 3 million people watching. Every single one. With Deion Sanders as the head coach of Auburn on ESPN, first of all, they'd be on primetime every week, every single week. And every game would do 2 to 3 million viewers. Every single game. They could be playing cupcakes, and they're going to get 2 to 3 million. Why do I know this? Because the games that Coach Prime and JSU get, that are on ESPN 1000, as he refers to it, or whatever, some subscription-based thing, is doing close to 1 million already. JSU games are doing on ESPN channels that most folks can't even get, are doing close to 1 million viewers already. The Orange Blossom Classic did 2 million this year. This year. The Southern Heritage Classic, which is on freaking YouTube, has over 1 million views. Was on freaking YouTube and was the hardest thing in the world to find. Come on, man. So why wouldn't ESPN be pushing this narrative? Paul Finebaum is on every single weekday on ESPN radio for like 3 hours at a time. He never has clips on their thing. Or barely. He barely ever has clips on the ESPN YouTube channel. Barely. He barely ever has. I mean, he has a really good following, a really good audience. They ain't paying him for no reason. He get people watching. But he barely ever has clips. The clips that Finebaum that's always posted from Finebaum's show to the ESPN YouTube channel and the ESPN social networks, that they always blast to the ESPN social networks, are when Paul Finebaum is talking about Deion Sanders. That's not by damn coincidence. That's not by coincidence. It's because in ESPN's mind, their dream scenario would be Deion Sanders leaving Jackson State and going to an SEC school. Leaving JSU in the South, where he always has his footprint in recruiting and all that stuff, and going to an SEC school. That would be their dream scenario. Without question. Without question. That would be their dream scenario. Now, the question to the fans is, do you think it'll happen? Do you think after just 2 fall seasons? Because here's the thing, the Auburn coach ain't even fired yet. Let's be real. The reason why this specific title with this specific job is because Auburn just got thrashed by Penn State. They just got blown out by Penn State like 41-12. And the guy, Auburn had a losing record last year, and then they just got busted by a Big Ten school that a lot of people don't even think is that great. And they haven't even gotten to the gauntlet that is the SEC. So, of course, they're going to, people are already putting the Auburn guy on the hot seat. And Coach Prime's the hottest name in college football. JSU fans, what you're going to have to deal with moving forward, as long as Deion Sanders is your coach, is every time a major job opens up, specifically in the SEC, every single time a job opens up, Deion Sanders' name is going to be brought up. Every single time. It don't matter if it's Vanderbilt, Kentucky, like South Carolina. Every single time an SEC job opens up, his name is going to be brought up, and ESPN specifically is going to try to push the narrative and get Prime to the SEC. To hell with Prime going to a Big Ten school. They don't want Prime. They don't want to see Prime in Nebraska. To hell with Prime going to the ACC. They don't want to see Prime at Louisville or something. No, hell no. They don't want to see that. They want to see Prime in the SEC at Auburn specifically, going against Oklahoma and Texas and being a rival against Alabama and playing against Ole Miss and playing against Mississippi State. That is the price you pay for being as successful as you've been. You just beat Grambling, the most notable HBCU brand, by 42 points. You beat FAMU going into the season, the number 2 power ranking as far as HBCU football teams. You beat them by 56 points. So people are going, and if you continue to slaughter people, which I think you will, I wholeheartedly believe you will, if you continue to slaughter people, they're going to continue to say Prime has already outgrown that job because you're blowing folks out the way you are. You're beating people by an average of 37 points. That's 5 touchdowns. Your average margin of victory through 3 games and 2 games against 2 of the better teams in all of HBCU football is 5 touchdowns. And the only game that's really making that close is the one Tennessee State game, or it'd actually be closer to 6 touchdowns because you beat both FAMU and Grambling by more than 6 touchdowns. So as long as you're this good, you're going to have these problems. And these are good problems to have. I said 5 touchdowns, 37 points, actually 6. I keep adding extra points. 37 points per game margin of victory is a 6 touchdown margin of victory. These are good problems to have. Now, Coach Simmons, shout out to Coach Simmons, says he's being groomed for Bama. That could be a thing, but nobody knows when Saban's going to retire. Saban might coach another 5 years, another 6 years, 7, 10 years. We don't know. He's old. He's 70 something, but he's still kicking. He still looks good. He's still out there coaching as hard as ever. But they won't prime in the SEC like next year. ESPN, if it's up to them, Prime would quit right now. They'd fire Auburn's coach right now, and Prime would have the Auburn job tomorrow. And if you don't think, and here's what I want my listeners, shout out to y'all, man. Continue to hit that thumbs up button. Continue to hit that thumbs up button. If you don't think cable companies have a vested interest in the coaches with the conferences that they have media rights, or that they don't have any kind of influence on the conferences that they have media rights, then you're just fooling yourself. If you're like, Jeff, why in the hell would ESPN care about who coaches at Auburn? Well, I just told you why that. Well, Jeff, ESPN, they don't have no say-so about who coaches at Auburn, or they can't dictate. I'm going to do this one. If you don't think that ESPN, or in Fox's case, Fox paying these conferences over $1 billion per year to stream their games, to show their games, if you don't think that they have any influence on coaches being hired at certain schools, you just don't know business. You just don't know business. That's just like if somebody paid me for every show that I do on YouTube, right? If somebody's paying me a nice amount for every show that I do on YouTube, guess what? They can shoot me a text, give me a phone call, do whatever, and be like, hey, Jeff, I think, wink, 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 you should talk about this topic on your next show. Hey, Jeff, wink, 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 I think it would behoove you to talk about this topic on your next show as you cash our checks. So, yes, ESPN, not necessarily Paul Finebaum. I ain't talking about him. I'm talking about ESPN, the conglomerate. Yes, ESPN has some form of interest about who Auburn hires as head coach. Yes, ESPN has some form of influence about who becomes the next head coach at Auburn. And so, yes, if they want Deion Sanders to be the next head coach at Auburn, they can't force him to take the job, but they can throw hints that they would love to see him there. That includes posting clips from Paul Finebaum's show. So there you have it. Now, do I think he leaves for Auburn? Auburn still has a head football coach. He ain't even been fired yet. And there's no guarantee that he will be fired. He might go run the table. I mean, chances are probably not. But he could run the table, finish the season 11-1 or whatever. And this was just a big, giant talking point, right? Or they could, lose 6 games, 7 games this year, and Coach Prime's name will swirl. It will continue to swirl. So we will see. We will see what happens. It is definitely, but like I said, JSU fans, continue to enjoy your success, because the more fun that you're having, the more the vultures will continue to have your coaches naming their mouths and having meetings about your coaches, your head coach in particular, about having him come to one of these SEC programs. It's not going to stop. As long as you keep beating folks by 40 and 50 points, it's only going to continue to get worse. And every time a major job, man, because Prime, we don't know if Prime's ever going to leave, right? But Prime ain't leaving for no Kentucky. He ain't leaving for no Vanderbilt. Auburn would be interesting. Auburn would be interesting to see what he does. But I think he has a bigger mission, a bigger task at hand that he wants to continue to do for HBCUs, not just Jackson State, but for the entire HBCU sporting world. And I think he's been steadfast on making the stuff happen. And he's continued to talk about all the great things that he's done so far and what he plans on doing in the future. But money does talk. And that is a thing. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Hey, shout out to y'all, man, for tapping in, man. Let me go through a couple of these comments, man, before I get out of here. I do have to get out. Let me see. Prime not going to Auburn. He especially not going to the SEC. Too much racism. There's a lot of racism in the SEC, by the way. Maybe at a Power 5 school like Miami, FSU, maybe ACC, not SEC. See, the ESPN as the conglomerate, you make a lot of sense, man, Florida. Shout out to you. They want Prime in the SEC. ACC is cool, but they would love to see Prime in the SEC simply because of the big cable deal, the big deal they're about to give the SEC. The obsession of the talk of him leaving is ridiculous. Let it happen, then discuss it. No, well, you got to discuss it because it's a possibility, and you don't want to catch anybody off guard. I just think it's interesting the way that they're promoting him to leave Jackson State, not just to leave Jackson State, but to leave Jackson State for an SEC school, and I think that's something that ESPN desperately wants. That's the whole point of this video. No amount of money would make me sell myself. I understand that. I mean, but he's not necessarily sell himself. If he feels like he's accomplished his goal at Jackson State, then he might leave. But, only he can tell you what his goals are and when he feels like he's accomplished those goals. I don't think he's accomplished them, not from the way he's spoken recently and not from the trajectory that this thing is going, because there's nothing that Coach Prime, and I've said this before on other broadcasts, there's nothing that Coach Prime could do at any other school, whether it's Auburn, Alabama, Clemson, or wherever, Miami, Florida State, nowhere. There's nothing that he could do at that school that will feel and that will be as impactful as what he's doing currently at Jackson State, and not just at Jackson State and for Jackson State, but for all the HBCUs. There's nothing he could do, because at Auburn, they've won championships. There's no amount of championships. There's no amount of revenue. Auburn's always going to make money as a school. Like I said, they're about to get $1 billion. The SEC as a conference is about to get $1 billion a year from ESPN. So there's nothing that he could do at those other schools that'll impact and have the same feel for us as a people and for our culture and for everything than what he's doing at Jackson State currently. Leaving his kids, ? All his kids can leave for the transfer portal. Yes, they can. I mean, the transfer portal is there for stuff just like that. Let's see. Yeah, they talking about him going to Arizona State. See, the Arizona State thing don't make no sense, though. That makes absolutely no sense, because one, the Pac-12 is that, and shout out to HBCU Spotlight, man. Great storytelling over there, by the way. Subscribe to them, give them a like and a follow. But the Arizona State thing doesn't make any sense, because although it's a Power 5 job, it's in a dying conference. It's all the way out in the West Coast. It's no connection to the South. There's no direct line to the playoff. I mean, because the Pac-12 is dying and the Pac-12 is losing USC and UCLA. It's just the Arizona State thing doesn't make any sense at all. The Auburn thing makes a lot of sense. So, yeah, I mean, the Prime ain't moving it. I hope not, and I don't think he will either, but I dang sure hope not. Let's see. I agree. The move to JSU to FBS would be legendary. The talking heads in the SEC need to control over the coaches. Yeah, man. I mean, but they're going to continue to talk, especially if that Auburn job. And see, this thing, they're saying this. Think about this, guys. They're putting out content like this, and we're only 3 games into the season, and the Auburn coach hasn't even been fired. It's only his second year, and they're already starting this narrative, but they want to get the train moving a little bit. They're trying to have this thing build some legs. So if Auburn continues to struggle and Auburn continues to lose, and if the Auburn coach gets fired, this thing continue to chugging, and then going full speed. That's why they're starting now. They're starting in September. What do you think it's going to be like in November if Auburn is sitting at 2-5 or 3-4 or something like that? Like, this is something that they're slow building, but they want this thing. They are really, really, really trying to have this thing gain some legs. So by the time, or if the coach does get fired, they've gotten the fans, opened up to the idea of Coach Prime being the only black coach in the SEC currently, and him being the next head coach of Auburn University. That's why they're starting this thing. He's not going to leave before his kids graduate. He's not going to leave 1 year after they graduate. That would be a bad look. I don't think it'll be a good look either, and I don't think he'll leave. I'm kind of along the same lines as you, but I'm telling you what ESPN and why they're backing this message, why Paul Finebaum clips are being posted with this kind of title. That's why. If Alabama manages to get Deion Sanders when Saban retired, the dynasty will continue. That'd be scary just to even think about. Let's see. There's more to it. It's ESPN behind it, plus Auburn sponsored by Under. DJ, you are right. I totally forgot. Auburn is an Under Armour client. I totally forgot about that. Auburn is an Under Armour client. Prime and the creator of Under Armour are like besties. Whoa. I mean, this thing really going to pick up some steam. If Auburn loses to Missouri this Saturday and Jordan Hare, Harsin's out immediately, bye week, the latest. You could be right, man. You could be right with the signing day, NIL, all that. You want to get Harrison out. You could be right, man. You could be right, man. I mean, those are realistic things to think about. Shout out to y'all, man. Shout out to y'all. Hit that thumbs up button, man. Deion Sanders to Auburn. This thing ain't, like you said, if Harrison loses Saturday, the key game is to check out the score of the Auburn-Missouri game on Saturday. Just keep an eye on that. My name is JeffLightsyJr. with the Black Boss Channel, and my YouTube is JeffLightsyJr. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out. Also, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at JLightsy7. That is Instagram and Twitter at JLightsy7. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope we got the YouTube thing figured out. I don't know. My reach has kind of been weird, but share this broadcast if you can. If you enjoyed it, thank you guys so much, and I will see you next time. Peace.